Welcome to Season 6 of the Long-Winded One podcast. This is Spoiler Sessions, LitRPG, the only show where spoilers don't spoil anything. We're digging into fan theories, side characters, and the lore authors left in the drawer.
All right. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. This is great. It's a snowy Sunday night. The Pats are on. And last I checked, they were winning. Hopefully they're still winning. And tonight, this is Spoiler Sessions with an author who I've followed named J.J. Thorn. He's going to join us, and we have a surprise guest from he's a blast from his past that will join us tonight, and we'll talk about their books together. And so you may know JJ from the Weight of It All series, the System Orphans series, Claire in particular. We'll talk about that. He's also very engaged in the community, does a book club, and he does a what he calls, and it's true, the adjective is accurate, a massive LitRPG sale every August where you can come get free and discounted LitRPG books, both well, we'll talk about that. I don't want to give too much away, but I just wanted to say welcome to the podcast, Josh.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and I really do appreciate it. You've done so many of these. It's cool to be within the lore.
Yeah, no, it's kind of it's a selfish pursuit, really. I mean, the fact that I get to interface with all of these unbelievable people is definitely a selfish endeavor. We are, every week that we do this, we are leading up to LitRPG Con. Mm-hmm. So I do a little countdown every episode. Most weeks I only have one interview. Some weeks I'll have a couple. But we are 24 weeks away now from LitRPG Con. It is the second annual, I should say. It is in July in Denver. Will we get a chance to see you there this summer, Josh?
I wish, honestly. I had a very long conversation with my wife, and I tried to make it work, but I have a 7-month-old at home, as I was referencing previously, and I have a 2-year-old as well. So I would have needed to lug along the entire family, and it just didn't make sense. So this, maybe next year. I was pretty jealous last year, so my goal is to try and get there one year.
It's an incredible experience, and I've said this before, but I've been to a lot of conferences, not a lot of conventions, but a lot of conferences. And, sometimes when you go and you don't know many people there, it can be a really isolating experience. And I didn't feel that way at all last year. Mm-hmm. It was great. So highly recommend. So, and as well, you're from Canada, right? So we've had other people on the podcast from outside of the States. And they're like, well, hopefully we can get into the country, and so.
Well, there's some things happening that we won't talk about as well that are
exactly.
also weighing on my mind as to why I may not want to cross the border at this point in time.
Well, it's just I won't go into that anymore, but we hope to see you there sometime. So this is Spoiler Sessions. We're going to talk specifically about the Weight of It All series and the System Orphans Claire. And I say Claire because that will come up. And so we're talking about like fan theories, lore that you haven't used, but or maybe have written and you kind of left it in the drawer. And then eventually we'll get to your book club. And I think what we should do is we should start with the System Orphans Claire, and maybe you could give us like a quick 10,000-foot view of that, and then we'll transition to the Weight of It All, and then I'll invite our special guest in. Does that work?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. So let me just say, I have 3 series. So I hadn't referenced one of them previously, so I apologize, Jared. So I have, to your point, System Orphans Claire. I have The Weight of It All, which was my debut series and the one that's the most popular, and it has 6 books, and it's technically complete. And then the third one I have is called Don't Combust. Yes. And that one actually, I sold it to Athon, but I wrote the first book, which they have, but they're waiting for me to write the second one, and my writing speed is so slow that I don't know when that one will be out. So I have actually started working on a webcomic for that as a result in the meantime. So that's
that
on the
was
list as well.
that was definitely on my list of things to talk about because I'm very curious. My daughter is super into Webtoon, and it's just blowing up. And of course, we have very popular lit RPG series that have gone that direction, and so we'll talk about that. So we'll definitely talk about that. Okay.
Oh, you're right. System Orphans, Claire. So let me jump in. So I have started going to cons actually more recently, so I've tried to get a little bit better on like how I describe it. And actually, System Orphans Claire seems to be the one that resonates the most with people because it's like objectively simple to understand for people who understand revenge stories. System Orphans Claire is basically a story about a girl who becomes orphaned by an apocalypse. When that happens, she gets sent to a program. That program doesn't treat the kids very well, so she sets out to kill 100 people who orchestrated that program. And the story basically starts there, and it just goes. It doesn't. A lot of other lit RPGs tend to start today, where they're like at the very beginning when the system actually appears. It actually starts when she's like 40-ish people. She's already killed 40-ish people. So you start with someone who knows what they're doing. They're not just figuring out the system from the very beginning, but they are still figuring out both the system themselves, the world around them, and sort of where their place is within this new world and this new existence. But it's not right away. So yeah, so I love it. It is the one that I just actually got the latest edits back on book 3 that comes out in April of this year. So it's one that's very top of mind, and it's my wife's favorite as well. So it holds a near and dear place in my heart.
Well, tell me about so System Orphans Claire.
Yeah.
Right. So talk a little bit about that, and I think I know what you're going to say, but I want to. This is a part of what we're doing in spoiler sessions. Yeah. This is one of the things we were going to talk about. Tell us why it says Claire at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at a lot of like system stories, they tend to have, and actually Tao Wong does this very well. So if you look at Tao Wong and his System Apocalypse series, he's been able to basically have his initial ones, which were with John, and then he has one with Tismet, Australia, and different ones. So I guess you could say I had a similar idea, but focusing on a specific person. So in the first series that I was intending to write, and I did end up writing, was for Claire, and it follows her through that program and basically on to kill these targets. And then my idea was basically that I would follow different orphans, not all people that were within the program, but basically people who were also orphaned by the apocalypse. And in fact, I actually had covers created for a couple of the others. One in particular that happens in the second book. There's an orphan. It's sort of a spoiler, but that's the whole point of your thing. So in the second book, someone becomes an orphan as a result of the things that happen in the second book. And that character, her name's Eleanor, I actually had a book cover created for her because she was going to be the next series within System Orphans. It would have been System Orphans L. So actually L is she's not super recurring, but she appears in the second book and she's referenced quite a few times in the third book as well. And really I'd like this idea of like, you have a world and it's a living, breathing world. Things are happening outside of what Claire is doing. And there are these people who are also trying to survive, and I'd love to see different perspectives. And that was the goal of that particular series. The reason why it hasn't come to pass is, one, I probably am not the best at hyper-focusing on a specific task, but also, two, I just don't write fast enough to be able to like pump out just within that world. So I did Claire. I'm trying to make sure that I can like focus on Claire, but I sort of pivoted and started focusing a little bit on Don't Combust because it really stuck in my mind. That series.
Sure. Oh yeah. Well, it must be funny to people who are outside, who aren't writers, right? You've created this second cover for this book that you're going to write someday, right? Mm-hmm. And it's I don't know if you release on Royal Road, but it's almost essential to have that book cover for the book that you're going to write someday, right? Like you have to have that early in order to sort of drum up interest and write serially if that's something that you do.
But even beyond that, I'd say that like to a certain extent, for your own peace of mind as a writer as well, if you're writing something and something is like niggling in the back of your mind so much that it's like get me out, creating that cover, working with the artist, writing a paragraph or even like an entire chapter, which is what I did for Claire while I was finishing off The Weight of It All. Writing that just to like get it down on paper at the very least and say, okay, you know what? I can't do this right now because I need to focus, but let me push it away and do something with it. It really does help to a certain extent to make sure that you can like bypass those thoughts because it can really get in the way of your current writing process if you're just focusing on a different story entirely too. Yeah.
I've heard that about the book blurbs too, like writing your book blurb and like keeping that present while you're writing the series that, that's coming up. I'm curious how you do it. Do you stick to that book blurb, or do you end up rewriting that after you've finished your book?
I think everyone knows like book blurbs are probably some of the hardest thing to write because it's so hard to condense something down. I'm actually a little different in that I tend to write the book blurb at the end. I tend to write. I've gotten more into outlining to a certain extent because I find that because I have so many things on the go, I need to make sure I get down some of my thoughts. I'm still a pantser in that I still don't have everything outlined. I just couldn't do that. I'm just not that organized. But I definitely have an idea of where things go. So I don't have the blur, but I at least have that like tangential outline to sort of base what I'm going to write based off of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think true pantsers might not even have an outline. I don't know.
They don't. Yeah.
Yeah. I think of myself as a pantser too. And then I look back and I'm like, there's no way I'm too organized to be a pantser. Okay, I want to ask one more question about the series that we're talking about, and then I'm going to invite our guest in. And this is a fan theory that you had regarding a character, and you didn't even tell me. This is you're going to surprise me with this. So, what is this fan theory, and who is it about from the Claire series?
Yeah. So when you asked me the question, I sort of had to think about it from the lens of my different series. And I did end up releasing Apocalypse Assassin or System Orphans Claire, the first one and the second book, on Royal Road to start. And one theme was like pretty pervasive throughout the writing of that first book, which was one of the characters. His name Norman is his name. Norman is a mild-tempered, nice-ish individual within the series who is elusive, but he helps out Claire in certain ways. He's very close to Claire's like godmother of sorts, his like pseudo mother Chen, and then Norman and Chen create like a relationship, and that's how Claire's introduced to Norman. He also runs the town hall, basically that is within Toronto, and they're the ones orchestrating a lot of the like dungeon dives within the city of Toronto, a lot of the like making sure that kids have a place to go and stuff like this. Despite all the good that he was doing in the city, a lot of people have the idea that he will eventually be one of Claire's targets down the line, as a fan theory. And honestly, despite me not immediately seeing it, I've actually come around to it a little bit. So I'm on the fence. So like I say this as a fan theory, but I also say it as I have not yet decided which direction it will go in, because I could see it going either way, and I sort of have it planned out as either. So honestly, anybody who's reading will have to will figure it out as soon as I do when that fourth or fifth book comes out. What happens with Norman and Claire?
Yeah, I think you told me in your email. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but there is a fan theory out there, so that's actually cool, and that's cool that like you can process feedback like that. Not even feedback, but like that discussion, and then you're like, oh. Okay, maybe.
Well, I think you'd know better than me, honestly, even because I hear you're currently on Rising Star, so fantastic! Congratulations.
Thank you. I found that out like 3 hours ago. Thank you. But we're focusing on you.
I know. No, well, you gotta make sure. No, so congratulations. So like, I was on it for like briefly, and I didn't like Royal Road for certain reasons. I did like it for certain reasons. And the reasons why I did like it are specifically what you were just referencing. The idea that you have like almost near immediate feedback on a chapter by chapter basis. It is really nice to see that. And especially when it's like encouraging feedback, to be able to get that encouragement as you're writing, it really can help. I didn't like it because of my slow speed, it was difficult to make sure I kept up a good cadence. And also, I basically needed to wait until the entirety of the book was finished. And when I finish the book, I often go back and make changes to the beginning of the book. And that's not conducive to a Royal Road style, where you basically, if you're going back and changing certain things, you're sort of messing it up for the people that I've written. So that's not my intention. And I never want to mess people over in that way. So I might do it again in the future, but for now, I'm going to stick to the KU model for Don't Combust. Probably.
Yeah. Totally understood. Yeah. Well, I have kept our guest waiting in the green room far too long. So I'm gonna it's kind of a surprise, but you kind of already know who it is. So we're going to invite Gabriel Vaughan to the
Hey,
podcast.
guys.
Hey,
Hey
how
there.
are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking me to be a part of this, Jared. And Josh, JJ, great to see you again. And
I know we haven't talked in so long, man. This is
I know. I
fantastic.
looked back. I actually checked on we had like a Instagram DM or something about we were asking about a book, and did you have the script yet? I'm like, yes, I got it. And I was like, oh, he likes my narration. Yay. It's always like when you don't always get that feedback from authors. Sometimes there's very little connection as a narrator. Sometimes there's awesome connection and you get input and like it feels more collaborative. And so that's always nice to hear. But I was loving your conversation. This is very, very cool.
Yeah, well, Gabriel, you're a Red Sox fan, I can see. So you and I are going to get along just fine.
Just A-okay.
And just for the listeners, edification. So Gabriel and JJ worked together on the Weight of It All series, and that's a 6-book series. Is that correct? And so we're going to talk about Weight of It All now, and you guys can riff off each other, or I mean, it's been a while since you've talked, so we're happy to just listen to you two talk too. But
I did review my notes. I went back and I save all my notes. Oh yeah. No. I'm like a note taker, because every script, right? Every manuscript, I'm like marking it up, thinking about it theatrically, thinking about characters. And that was one thing that, like, as I started to review this and remember, I'm like, oh, right. I just loved how accessible and just like you rooted for Terrence. Like he was just instantly, I'm like, I know this kid. I know him and he's got a good heart. And it was so easy to get behind him for the story and for the telling of the story. And that's always when I get a script and I'm like, I don't know, this protagonist is sort of like, how's this going to go? But like Terrence was one of those I got instantly. I'm like, awesome. And I was always so happy for that.
It's nice to hear. Honestly, it's the writing of that book was like a miracle in a bottle. I think I wrote it in like a month and a half during COVID. Basically, I was in like a tiny apartment in Toronto with my girlfriend at the time. And I basically, because it was COVID, no one was allowed to leave the house. And my girlfriend and I were on each other's nerves. And I needed an outlet basically just to go and do something. And I've been reading a lot of LitRPG, obviously, around the time. And I was just like, and I think we were talking about it beforehand, Jared. I was like, I can do this. Like, why can't I go do this? I've liked manga and anime and light novels and web novels and now LitRPG my entire life. Let me just try and throw this out. And like, it had mistakes. Like, it still continues to have mistakes, but I'm very thankful for like what it's opened up for me as like an opportunity, because people have enjoyed it, thankfully, but also just like the idea that I have this thing out there that people can go and continue to read forever and always is really cool to me.
Well, Gabriel, you probably, I mean, you do lots of, I mean, you're a stage actor. You actually acted in something that I wanted to ask you about later, but you were a swing dancer in a TV show, I believe. And I was curious.
In Mona Lisa Smile.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's right.
The film. Yeah. That was
so cool.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, but you're like legit, Gabriel. It's crazy. When I remember seeing your name and being like, who is it? But then I looked it up and I was like, what the heck? Like, just stuff. Like, I was very, very fortunate. Very, very
fortunate. Thank you for saying that. I'd only done one other LitRPG series before this one, Michael Pede's Dungeon Robotics. And so I kind of had some background, and that's actually kind of like Dungeon Core. That's a little bit slightly different. But and what I was sort of to continue what I was saying before this was like what you brought to this series was like the missing piece that I like want to have in any book is those characters that are really more kind of like personable, because sometimes hard sci-fi can get just too, I don't know. I'm like, as an actor, I'm always like, where's the character? Where can I get that character? And I think listeners will respond to that too, because you made all these young kids and what they're struggling with and their different affinities and finding them. I thought that was such a creative choice that there could be affinities that like no one had heard of, and that how is that determined? Because like, oh, what a great sort of even the person themselves doesn't know what it's going to mean, you know, and that worked really well through the whole thing as kind of a through line. I don't know. I sort of got off on a tangent.
No, please talk about my series though. No.
Yeah.
So Josh,
really cool, yeah.
Josh, did you provide like other authors refer to it as like a Bible? Did you provide a document to Gabriel or to you know, however the script got to Gabriel, to the manuscript? Did you provide like extra information on the characters, or you know, I don't know, do you even like that, Gabriel? Like when
Yeah, you know, it's I don't think I got one for this. I don't believe so.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. And sometimes it's kind of maybe like 10% of the time I'll get that, but usually I'm on my own with scripts. So that's why I'm always like highlighting anything that's kind of an influence for character choices and voices, trying to ground them in something that feels true to what's there. But you know, it's just lots of notes and breaking things down. I mean, you know, shorthand here. I actually have my notes here. I'm like, you know, where's Tom Stein, uncle, jokes around, but he's a cool guy, leader of a group of dungeons, very capable and strong. I'm like, my shorthand to sort of you know, break things down. You know, Tom's Dungeoneers. Griff, beefy, deep-voiced. Rana, dry and sassy, sexy. She dies. Things like that. You know, cool. Like, okay, know that character isn't going to be around for a long time, so maybe then vocally you can kind of do something different. It's you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot, make a big bold choice, and then realize I can't sustain this for the whole. You know,
I've heard that before. Yeah,
I actually love that as well. It's so interesting to me to hear your perspective on how you sort of go about it, because. So, like, since I've worked with, like, Andrea Parsnow, who's fantastic as well, and Tess Irondale, who's fantastic as well. And in those two cases, they had asked for some notes on, like, some of the voices and stuff. But even when I was trying to come up with, like, okay, do I have a vision in my mind of, like, how these people should talk or how they should represent themselves? For a few characters, sure. But, like, most of the time, no. And I really do appreciate, and with you and with them, that I've been able to get people who are professionals, who've been able to sort of like come up with that range of like knowing to differentiate the characters, which is really appreciated for me. Thank you. And then also just like knowing that like where they come from, the context of the scene, that there will be different dynamics, there will maybe different accents. And I think that's so important to make sure that you really get across the story, where some stories don't do that. So I do appreciate it so much.
Awesome. Well, I'm surprised. So Andy's doing my second book, and I'm surprised she's got after I sent her like, oh, here's the list of all the characters, right? And the second book was a Gaelic novel, so like Gabriel, there's so many words there. I have like an 150 word pronunciation guide, and oh man. Anyway, so sorry, I digress. Let's talk more about the weight of it all. You in our conversation, Josh, you mentioned that there was meant to be a sequel with some specific lore about the goddess and the dungeon god. Can you talk about that?
So honestly, I'm going to talk pretty candidly about it. So I wrote the sixth book, and the sixth book didn't have the reception that I wanted. Sadly, it wasn't received as well. I think I made some mistakes as a new writer that ultimately I hope not to make in the future, but I made them, and I'm not going to go back and change it. But at the end of the book, again, spoilers for those who might pick it up, he gets caught up in basically a loop. So the idea is, I think it's called Sisyphus stairs. I'm trying to remember it at the top of my mind, but the idea is basically he's like walking up these stairs, and the goddess basically gives him an opportunity to like leave the dungeon. But she also asks the person who runs the dungeons, which is like this obscured figure that we don't really know much about, to basically rig it so that he can't leave. And the reasoning for that is basically in LitRPGs, they're often like very overpowered. And I never wanted like a super, super overpowered story. It just wasn't something that I think I could write very well. So throughout the course of the series, he tends to be pretty measured in his abilities. And there definitely are moments where...
Especially in the beginning, right?
Especially in the beginning. He's very, very measured. It's like a slower pace. To some, it might even be referenced as like a cozy fantasy nowadays, because that's a new term. But over the course of the series, he does progress, and he progresses. But in that last book, he shoots up quite a bit. And narratively, that's because the goddess in the first book basically sets this idea that like there's these dungeons that are about to basically wipe out a bunch of towns, kill a bunch of people. So she basically needs someone to be the person who gets tasked with like getting rid of those dungeons, which getting rid of the cores and like dealing with that stuff. And he's chosen as that person. So his rank shoots up like really, really quickly, and it doesn't fit the model of the rest of the book. But again, it's meant to be the goddess trying to find someone. But because he shot up so quickly and he's well above the other people that are on this continent, he's basically in a place that if she puts him back out there, he's now stronger than basically everyone. And she would not want that. So she's basically said, I can put you out there, or I can just say, hey, you're done, and just like keep him there. So the story sort of leaves off in a place of like, people can take it, and most people have taken it that he dies at the end of the day. The way in which I wanted it to be taken and what I wanted to do afterwards would be he's stuck there, but like we said, there's that obscure figure, the dungeon person, and basically I almost added it, but I decided not to include it. I was gonna have him whisper to Terrence at the end, basically like, do you want another way out? And basically what the whole purpose of the story was going to be, it was going to expand outwards beyond just this one particular continent of Terra. And basically there was going to be a series of continents, and each one was run by a goddess. But what we actually find out is they're not actually goddesses. They're just people who have reached certain ranks who now govern over these like territories. And this dungeon person is just another one of those individuals, but he governs over dungeons within her territory. So basically there was going to be these other places, and he was going to take him from this particular continent, territory, onto another, and basically force him to earn his keep, force him to earn his opportunity to make his way back to his family. So that was going to be the sequel, really. The sequel was going to be him finding his way back. And then I had this whole idea of like at the end of the book, in the epilogue, he was going to actually show up again, and it would have been like 5 years plus a couple days, because in the epilogue currently it's a story of his child. Again, so many spoilers, but his child with Jen that he has, and it's Jen and his child's birthday. So after everyone else arrived, I was going to have him arrive as well, and he was going to be all disheveled, but he was going to have no more powers, and he's going to be like, I've seen some shit, you have no idea what's happened. It was going to like close there and then lead to the sequel, but it didn't happen. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen.
I have to ask, and speaking of spoilers, but is there any bit of the Dark Tower spoiler ending going on there in the sort of recycle? Have you read?
I haven't read that one, honestly.
Yeah, I just finally finished it, all 7 books. Like Stephen King's, it's just like amazing. But speaking of spoilers, you can say it. There's a restarting that happens at the end of it. He's given the choice to begin again and go through, and that's why my friend was like, that's why it's okay if Idris Elba plays him, because there's infinite numbers. I was like, oh, now I get why that's anyway. But yeah, I was wondering.
Flag shows up in like even Eyes of the Dragon. Flag shows up.
Right, flags everywhere. Yeah. So anyway, I just had to ask, because when you said that as the sort of the cycle, maybe starting again or going through it, I was like, oh my god, that reminds me of. But just a
that's idea. Honestly that's
cool idea.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, you embody, Josh, this spoiler session mentality, and I applaud you for it. It's funny. Some authors like won't go near them, and I think a lot of it depends on like whether the author is still writing the series, honestly, whether they want to talk about it. But I'll put some heavy duty disclaimers on the description of this episode.
Honestly, I think you're fine not to. I think it's one of those things where, like, despite what happens at the very end, a lot of what I just referenced, I think the thing that makes that story like fun in my eyes is like the journey leading up to that point. Honestly, like my favorite books, and a lot of people's favorite books, because I've had a couple people talk to me recently as they've picked it back up, are the 3rd, 4th, and 5th books. And around that time, they've actually like started ranking up a little bit. They started going into dungeons. Some of the like war economic stuff happens. A lot of the like subplots upon subplots start to like come into play and like start to make sense a little bit. So those first couple books are like a lot slower. The 3rd book it picks up, and the 4th book it really like, it's the shortest of the books, but it's when the actual collapse happens. So honestly, no disclaimers necessary. Feel free to get spoiled if anybody comes and listens. I do not mind. Yeah.
Maybe one for Dark Tower.
Oh, there you go.
That's right. Yeah. I will. I will.
Yeah.
People will be pissed at me.
Yes, totally. It
Yeah.
takes years to read that.
I'll be
Damn it,
like,
man.
it's
Come on,
Gabriel's
man.
fault. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know? No. So we're actually running out of time. This is what I was telling you guys ahead of time. Like 30 minutes goes so fast. There's stuff that I want to point people to the Don't Combust it's on Webtoons and Global Comics right now, Josh.
And Tapas. Do you mind if I just talk about it?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm okay to go over a little tiny bit. I don't want to take up your guys' time. And trust me, I could talk to Gabriel more. Now I have to reach out to him afterwards and be like, "Thank you so much."
Yeah.
But yeah, Don't Combust is basically it's a story about two brothers that get caught up in an apocalypse, a demon apocalypse. So basically, demons appear in this desert mining town called Bisbee, Arizona. It's a real town. Look it up. It's actually really cool. But basically, demons start appearing in the middle of it. They kill a bunch of people, and this team of people, scientists, these brothers are sent to investigate and basically go down into the hole. They're specifically sent because the energy that's spewing with the demons has been injected within them. So one of the brothers is like very objectively half demon, and you can see it in his arm and in his eyes. And the other brother, until like midway through the book, you don't know why he's what his powers are. But spoilers, because of the story, spoilers are basically the story ends up becoming a much larger deal. It becomes an angels versus demons versus humans story, where one of the brothers has like angelic powers and one of them has demonic powers. And actually, the demonic one is more cultivation based, and then the angelic powers are more LitRPG based. So you get to see both streams. But yeah, I love it. I think it's
so cool. Yeah. And honestly, you're writing for the younger generation, because my kids, I mean, obviously there are adults that love webcomics and manga, but my kids, like, almost exclusively that's what they're into now. And so I am very interested in that, and maybe we'll do a part 2 someday where we can talk about that.
Honestly, there's so much to it. It's very expensive, but it's a completely different medium to like what we do on the writing side. Writing a script for an episode as opposed to writing a script for a chapter is just like very, very different. So I'd love to talk about it more. Absolutely.
That's amazing. And I do want to mention, so Gabriel, you've done, I've never interviewed anybody that's done Russian lit RPG before.
Yeah.
But
that was in the system.
In the system, right.
Peter Zgulyov. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just have to ask, because is it very different, right? Like get the translated version.
Yes, I get translated version. There's a lot of politics. It's global positioning. It's a global story. So there's continents being taken over and new alignments of creeds of people and races and history. Like it very dense in that aspect. So that definitely felt very, it's sort of like that is sort of a macro kind of story as opposed to like personal aspect you were going for, but still, I mean, very true to all the stats of everybody and all the items they're finding, the catalogs of all the tons. So he gets this marauder's bag that can like hold anything, and there's just like lists of it. It's like so crazy. He's like, and anyway, and lots of goblins. There was just massive killing of goblins, and they have their own worlds and their political structures too. It really dense series. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, we could talk forever, but if we could, here with the last couple of minutes, could you tell us kind of what you're working on currently, and where we can find you? Maybe Gabriel, we'll start with you, and then we'll end with Josh. Yeah,
I gotta tell you, I'm gonna connect some interesting dots here, because I have my own theory about this. So I just finished narrating. It's never been recorded as an audiobook. It's called The Universal Baseball Association, J. Henry Waugh, Proprietor. And it was written in 1968 by Robert Coover. Look this guy up. He's like credited with fabulism as like an offshoot of magic realism. And here's where I'm going to connect it to LitRPG. And you guys are going to be like, what? So he is about this lonely accountant who has created a fantasy baseball league himself, and he plays it with dice, and he creates the stories of all of these players, and he knows all their names, and he gets the influence of their names from real world, and then he gets really, really obsessed with it, and one of them dies, and his heart and his life is thrown upside down. But then you don't actually know if you're in the world of the baseball players or if you're in Henry Waugh's world, and the lines start blurring, and you're like, who's the narrator here? Who's actually in, where's this story coming from? And then, spoiler, the last chapter is the players having lived on after he's stopped playing the game. So it's I kind of think it as maybe a sort of early source material for some very meta, very and it's getting a new release, new publication, and has never been into an audiobook. So I just finished that. So
that's really cool.
So yeah.
You gotta
where are you getting most of your stuff? Am I allowed to say from Tantor, or do you get it from a bunch of different sources?
Oh yeah, all over. Yeah, that's for Audible. And then coming out in 2 weeks is Bernie for Burlington. It's a huge new book about Bernie Sanders. It actually has a write-up in this week's New Yorker. Not about the audiobook. That hasn't been reviewed yet. I hope people like it, but they love the book. The book's great. Yeah, Dan Chase and Bernie for Burlington. So, and that was for PRH. So yeah, I've worked for all kinds of publishers.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah. Can we get you at LitRPG Con this year, Gabriel?
Oh, where is it?
So it's in Denver. I think the second week of July. And it's going to be massive this year. The first annual
sounds cool.
Was last year. It was great, and there's a ton of narrators, people that you probably know and respect.
No, I've got Dan Helliger is a friend of mine. I just saw him yesterday. He does a lot of LitRPG too.
Oh
I hopefully get some more. I haven't done it. I've been I do all kinds of genre, all kinds of things. So when it comes along, I'm like, great, I don't go for it. So.
Yeah. Well, Josh, your turn. Tell us what you got going on now.
Yeah, no, I'm currently writing Don't Combust #2. I've just finished the edits, approving the edits on Claire's story #3. That comes out April 7th. Don't Combust, the webcomic, comes out every 2 weeks. So the 4th episode comes out this Thursday. Beyond that's the main stuff. I'll add the links, and I think we'll add the links afterwards to my stories in general. I have about 9 books out there. But yeah, if people can either check out the webcomic or check out Claire Book 3, those are the 2 main things that I'd love if people could take a look.
Yeah, we have a ton of links that we'll put in the description to check out your stuff. And I'm serious about wanting to discuss Don't Combust and that whole thing, because it's a whole different animal, and working with illustrators, I would imagine it's a whole different thing. So, guys, well, thank you so much for coming. It's been a real pleasure. And I'm wishing you the best of luck in your LitRPG and non-LitRPG lives.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Jared. Great to see you, Josh.
It was a great talk. Yeah, nice to see you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.